You were listening to episode 286 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we give guns to some freelance lizards in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
So this week we are playing Tom Mason's Dinosaurs for Hire on the Sega Genesis, Ryan's favorite console.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, and I definitely know why the dinosaurs are all extinct now.
It totally makes sense. We'll dive into that during our Inflation Deflation Challenge. Ryan, you want to kick us off on what people can look forward to this week?
Yeah, so this week, we look at ads. We want to make money, so we're just going to see how EA does it, and we're going to learn from them. And then we learn about the harsh reality of studio closures and the real reasoning behind them. More on that later.
For sure. But first, you can find us on the GameDeflators.com, our out-of-date website. You can find us on YouTube. Just search up the Game Deflators there. You're listening to a podcast app. Catch us on whatever app you're listening to. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And then you can find us on social media and follow us for more antics on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram. That's going to be at the Game Deflators. And Twitter is going to be at Game Deflators because they don't like the.
No, the. Is it like, so I'm confused. Like, when is it going to become X? Is that ever going to happen? Like, it's still Twitter.com.
And it's X. Like, talk about bad branding. Like, people still call it Twitter. Right. And then I've called it X on here and I've called it Twitter. And I mean, it is what it is, right? You can't go to like
X is just a variable. It stands in for anything.
Yeah. It stands for no ads because they don't really get any advertising dollars, apparently.
They should learn from EA also.
They should.
Listen to this episode.
They should. Oh, you can also subscribe to Ryan's OnlyFans. That's also where we're going to get some money. He's got lots of pictures of him holding like potatoes and stuff. It's great. Yeah.
Potato fans.
Potato fans. All right, let's kick it off with our recent pickups. So no gaming pickups for me this week, although I could technically go on the PlayStation Network and probably download the free stuff for the month. I did, however, so a few random things that I randomly grabbed. First off, I ended up like putting in an offer for like this blacksmith Lego set that I've been wanting for a while.
I was yeah, that was a good one.
That's a cool one, right? Like it sells for like 180, 190 bucks. I was like,
that was another one of the Lego Creators Club ideas.
Yeah. They have a Viking one out too that I want to get. But yeah, so I saw, I'm like, well, that's a pretty cool set, but I don't want to pay 180 bucks. And I just put in an offer like a week and a half ago to somebody who had it up for like 140. I was like, I'll buy it for 115. You know, that's quite a bit off. It doesn't have the box, but it has the instructions and 100% complete. So I was like, that's worth it, in my opinion. And so they declined the offer and they were like 125. I'm like, nah, I'm good. So then like a couple days later, I get a notification that says, oh, this price has dropped to 115 or best offer. I'm like, I'll give you $100. And they accepted the $100 and they accepted the $100. I was like, ha. So, and what's funny is I didn't even know I got it. I put in the offer and eBay didn't notify me to say, hey, you won X product, pay for it now. Because with best offers, if it's accepted, you put your credit card info in right away. And so it's just a purchase at that point, like I buy it now. So I didn't even realize I bought it till like 3 days later. I'm like, huh, that's weird. That's past the shipping day. Let me go ahead and reach out and be like, when is my Lego set I didn't realize I got coming in? So that's pretty cool. I mean, I got like $80 off. So that's not bad.
Nice.
I also noticed that Dungeon of the Mad Mage, the D&D book, is going for like stupid prices. Like, well, not stupid. It's going for like original retail, like $60, whereas a lot of campaigns are going for, $25, whatever it may be. Because of the new D&D coming out, some of those older 5th edition books are now starting to kind of go up in price. And so I was like, all right, well, I should probably get one now-ish if I want to save money and not have this whole situation of like $80, $90 for a new book, because I just don't want to spend that. So I went ahead and bought it, but like there was like some random thrift store that had it, and it has on the inside, it's got a couple little like dings on the corners. I'm like, whatever, it's a book, I don't care. And then like a kid wrote in like pencil crayon on the inside, not on a page, but on like the black insert cover, like with blue. It's like, okay, I'll just cover that with black and I'll be good. So I picked it up for like $25 for that one. So like half off of what it's normally going for used copy. And then I ended up also getting, the Stranger Things D&D set that was released. That's like a mini campaign, and it kind of comes with a couple their version of the Demigorgon. It
Yeah.
comes with those. They're the Demi-Dogs. So I ended up getting that. It has like a hole, like it's brand new, but I guess somebody like hit it, and there's like a little hole on the box. And I kind of looked at it in the pictures. I'm like, okay, I could totally get some glue and just kind of open it up, re-glue on, inside to out, and get it pressed up, and I'll be okay. So I ended up grabbing that for like $15. It's like brand new, going for anywhere from 40 to 60, depending on like overall condition. So not bad. I mean, there's deals to be had on eBay. You just got to find them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll go into a little bit of that in our discussion topic later, as far as like condition of things. But yeah, those were my pickups. I was pretty excited about those. I am eyeing, you're going to laugh, I'm eyeing the Gollum game, actually, on I know,
Just as like
right?
a spec buy.
Well, not a spec buy, like an actual buy to play it. And so I know, like, you're giving me a face, and this is why I wish we did
Are you
videos
trying to
sometimes.
bring back the crappy game challenge, John?
You know what? We do need to bring back a crappy game challenge for like a mini episode in the future. I would totally do that. But that's God, we
Welcome
haven't
to
been.
episode 289, where everyone suffers. We're playing the Gollum game.
That's not episode 289. We have like the next 4 games listed out, which I guess I can cover that too at some point before we go into our stuff. But no, I was eyeing it because like it's got like 4.1 stars now on Amazon, and I was like, that's kind of weird. Like
No, it doesn't.
it came up on my like possible purchases, and there's people saying like, hey, played through this. Yeah, it's got some glitches. It's got some like repetitive aspects to it, but overall, it's not a bad game.
That's
And
not
so
true at all.
there's a number of reviews that say like, hey, there's negative press on this, but like, and we could see why, but it's not like a 1-star game. Is it a 5-star? No, definitely not. It's not a 1-star. It's a anywhere from 3 to 4, depending on who's playing it. So I kind of want to give it a shot and see like, is it as bad as people say? Is it okay-ish? I'm not even going to say okay-ish. I don't, and my wife
How
would
did
probably
you
want to
feel
play it
about
with me.
Biomutant, John?
Okay, that's different. Biomutant just blew. That
Yeah, but
sucked.
this is going to be like that, but worse.
No, because I know what's coming. Biomutant I was excited for. Gollum, I have my low expectations on. Totally different situation. Biomutant, I went into that thinking, man, this is gonna be really cool, crafting and blowing things up and a ton of fun. And it ended up just being garbage. Like
That's
that
just
was
the
the
last
last
game I really remember you complaining about.
that's the last game I pre-ordered, actually. I haven't pre-ordered anything in a long time. And that was one of
No,
my main
like
reasons.
special editions or anything? You just ordered
I
the retro, uh, what is it? The Nintendo one.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got a couple copies of that. Well, that's different though, because that's
World
like
Championship.
yeah, but that's like speed run tournament style
Well,
things
no,
for
but
like
it's a
retro.
pre-order.
Yeah, but it's
But
retro.
you haven't
Like
pre-ordered like any other special editions in the last like couple of years? Biomutant came out like a long time ago, like 3 years ago, right?
Biomutant's the only thing that I pre-ordered.
Dang. You've
Yeah,
been
last
strong.
I mean, if there's anything else I
Well,
pre-ordered,
what about like
well, I guess okay, I can't really say that. Like day one purchases, I guess what it comes down to is I didn't do my research on Biomutant. I went in on the hype. I went on the videos and I thought, man, this is gonna be really cool. And then I dove in and it was garbage, right? But other games I've seen, like Crystalla, for example, the Kickstarter it was done, and they're working for Premium Edition games. Like we've talked about that game with Barry and Premium Edition. I've seen videos, I've seen the developers talking on it. Like that to me is a cool piece. That's one where it's not going to get mass release, from a
mhm.
retail perspective. Let me buy that, right? Like that's one instance. The World Championship game that Nintendo's releasing. It's a collector's edition. I'm getting 2. So yes, I could sell the extra if I wanted to. It is going to be sold out generally for that version. It's going to be in high demand because it's Nintendo. So I figured, okay, let me get that one because it's pretty cool, right? That's a nice little collector's shelf piece in a sense. Plus, it's got the components of, tournament style world championship gameplay, right? That's kind of cool. That's something that you and I can play and have some fun with and do an inflation deflation or just like a discussion topic, things like that, that I think would be pretty cool. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I've pre-released in those types of instances, but in terms of a AAA game, like or not, I don't even think Biomune would be AAA, but like a wider acclaimed game that's getting some commercials and all that type of stuff, like we've talked about, right? Games that are being marketed pretty heavily, and it turns out that they're trash. That was the last instance in which I've done that. All of my other stuff, I've pretty much waited for.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, long-winded way to be like, nah, dude, I haven't really pre-ordered to that extent. I did get the statue though on Biomune,
You
so that
probably
was kind of
gotten
cool.
some like limited run games or something, right?
No, actually, I haven't had any limited run games.
Oh dang.
So I haven't picked up a limited run game since Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and I think I was living in my house in Mesa when I got that one.
Oh really? You didn't
So
get like okay. I thought you
yeah,
were
I
getting
think I
some stuff.
pre-ordered. Well, it came in like after I moved here, but I pre-ordered it when I was at Mesa. Yeah, so it's been a while. Um, yeah, dude, I've tried to steer away unless it's something that I'm like very much, yes, that's something I want to get. Now I did pre-order. Did I pre-order it? I need to look. The Tales of the Infinite Staircase book. I'm pretty sure I did for D&D, and then the Vecna book. I think it's Eve of Vecna or Eye of Vecna. I forget the name of the book, but I ordered those because they're alternate covers, and I just always buy the alternate covers when they're available.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was that. All right. As far as what I'm playing, I have completed Tales of Symphonia.
Woo!
Very excited about that.
Congratulations. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a great game, isn't it?
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it cracks like my top 10 RPGs, but I did think it was a good game. I thought it had a lot of fun elements and story like plots and things that kind of kicked through, and like the whole Kratos thing. And I texted you, I'm like, I knew Kratos was his dad, like Lloyd's dad the entire time, like that type of stuff. And I probably just spoiled it for somebody out there. I'm sorry. But I thought that was pretty cool. Like I knew it the whole time. I'm like, there's a reason he's here. It's either like there's some sort of time shifting thing where he's like future, like Kratos is really Lloyd or something, or they're related in some capacity. Like there's only so many reasons why somebody would be like who is a traitor would be helping out another group throughout. You either have some sort of connection to them or you are them, and you need to
Mm-hmm.
have them succeed in a certain path. So that was pretty cool. I will say the final battle with is it Yggdrasil? I think is the name. I
Mm-hmm.
always mess that up. Um,
Yggdrasil?
what's that?
Yggdrasil?
Yggdrasil. I think it's Yggdrasil. Um, the final battle with him was pretty crazy. Like I almost died. I don't know how many times. I had so many life potions on me, as well as like lemon gels and all these other things. And I ended up playing the part of um, I ended up playing as Rain essentially. So I had the battle set to automatic because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to sit here and manage all of these fighting or fight, all these characters fighting, plus having to manage health aspects and tying it like so I was like, no. So I set it to automatic, and then what I did is I essentially played as Rain and was audit like just healing constantly in
Mm-hmm.
that battle, like nurse, 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 and then whatever other things that she uses, and then just using items and things of that nature. I would switch to God, I forget his name. It's the red hair guy that's the other chosen. I would switch to him and then go ahead and use items of him as well. But my final party ended up being Lloyd, Priscilla, Rain, and the red hair guy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah, that's what we ended up with.
Now,
Um,
this was your first Tales game?
yeah, actually, now that I think about it,
Yeah, it's a great series. I've only played like a few of them a bit, like so I don't have like a ton of other recommendations, but I mean there's so many of them and a lot of them are supposed to be
well,
pretty good.
Tales of Destiny 1 and 2 is definitely on my list of games to get on PlayStation 1. Those are two of the heavy hitter RPGs I'm actually missing. So, if there's somebody
I've
listening
played a
that
little bit of Tales of Eternia on PS1 and it's so surprising because it's the same, but it's like you're doing that same kind of like combat but on a PS1 instead and it's just like holy cow, this is great.
Yeah.
And then I played a bit of Tales of Legendia,
Hmm.
and that one was pretty good, but I swear to God, you rescue people from being kidnapped like 4 times.
Well, and then Tales of the Abyss, I've heard is very good as well. But if anybody has Tales of Destiny 1 and 2 on PS1 and has a really smoking deal for a complete in box, hit me up in the comments. Would greatly appreciate that. Um, the other piece of this too is after all was said and done, right? And you go through and you do the battle with Kratos, you have to defeat him and make the pact and all these other things. Like I thought all that was really cool. How all that was lined up and just all of those components kind of coming together to tell the full story. And then of course they leave you on the biggest cliffhanger of the tree's new name when it's all done. And he's like, the tree will be named roll credits. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, the tree's name is roll credits. That's what it is. I'm gonna go with that. Now I know
It's
it
always
ends up
Tales of Symphonia too.
apparently that game sucks.
Yeah,
So
I got you have the, combo, like, the deluxe edition still, like, all sealed up, right?
yeah, with the little characters.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got it if you ever wanna play it without opening yours, but
Well, that's
it's
what I have. It's the Chronicles.
yeah, but if you don't wanna open yours.
Yeah, I didn't have to. I have another copy, a loose
Oh,
copy
you
that I
do?
bought. Yeah, that's how I'm
Oh,
playing it on
okay.
PS3. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I thought you were
yeah.
playing, like, the GameCube version this whole time.
Nah, dude. No, I have I've been playing on PS3. Um
Okay.
Yeah, no, oh my god, playing anything with cables in the main part of my house with dogs is
That's
insane.
true.
Yeah, yeah,
You could have
not
a
gonna
wave
happen.
bird?
Nah, I'm not gonna waste batteries. Screw that, dude. Yeah, I have a PS3. Here's the best thing. I played on PS3, okay, because I have a controller hooked up to the PlayStation all times. My son has this tendency of turning on the PlayStation at random intervals throughout the course of the day, and so that controller's fully charged, dude. Like
Nice.
all the time. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll switch out to that one. And I put in my other control. And then he charges it for me. Granted, the PS3 stays on for like 3-4 hours at a time with nothing happening, but at least it's charging a control. So that kind of works
Mhm.
out. Yeah. So I played Tales of Symphonia. I definitely liked it. I did learn that the tree's name actually is Yggdrasil. When you play the other game, it takes place however many years later, and they talk about the tree and they're like, oh, the tree's name is Yggdrasil, which kind of makes sense because of the whole situation at the end there, where um not that like Mythos being like obviously clearly a bad guy and everything, but like there's this hint of like there's good in this individual, and I think that's what they were going for with the tree name. So
Mhm.
either way, I finished it. It was good. I liked it. The other thing I started was Alundra, which is my new games resolution. If Will is listening to this episode, you thought it was Nintendo-y. That is incorrect. The game is a PS1 game. So poo poo to you, sir, PlayStation. But I'm only about probably about 30 minutes in on that one so far. And I keep falling asleep. So surprise, surprise. I was playing it last night and I got through whatever little bit. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm feeling pretty up to this. Like I'm awake. And then I nodded off and then I clicked square because for some strange ass reason, the action button is square in this game. It's like a mix of square and X depending on what you're doing.
Mm.
And so I go ahead and hit square and the dialog box comes up. I read about one out of the 5 lines and I fall asleep again. And then I wake up and I hit square and I read about one out of the 5 lines. I did that about 8 times before I'm like, screw it. And I turned it off
Yeah.
and went to bed. So that ended up being my situation last night. And then I'm playing the secret game. In fact, we are really close to
That's
beating
what
the
you said the
secret game.
last 2 weeks.
Oh, no, 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 sir. We are really, really close to beating the secret game. I think we've got like a few sections left and we're done with this game. So
Okay.
your guesses.
Question and guess time? Okay, so
It
I was
is.
going through earlier. Let me see here. So my first question was it longer than 20 hours? And you said no. And then I guess Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and that was wrong.
Yep.
And then the next week, I asked, let's see, what was my question? Oh, is it a co-op shooter? You said no. And then I guessed Persona 4, even though it's way more than 20 hours.
I don't even think you could speed run it in 20 hours. Maybe.
And then the next one, I asked was if it's something I've played, and you said yes. And I guessed Brave Fencer Musashi, and that was wrong.
It was.
So this week, my question is going to be, is this a Nintendo console only game?
No.
Okay. My guess, hold on, let me see.
I like this game. I should have done this a long time ago.
Oh, there's no way it's this game. You would have definitely finished it by now if it was only that short. I don't have any idea. Okay, I'm just going to guess because this is a game that you're playing with your wife. I'm going to guess Eco.
Eco. Like Eco to Dolphin?
That's Echo.
Oh,
Echo,
okay. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
ICO, like by the
Oh,
studio.
Eco. ICO. ICO. No.
I mean, if
It
you didn't
is
know what I was talking about, it obviously
I
wasn't the answer.
I don't. So Eco. I don't know why I went to Echo all of a sudden. I just saw in my head. I just thought ECO for Eco.
Oh, like
Yeah, Eco, and then
eco-friendly.
I forgot that Echo has an H in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it is not Eco. Although that
Dang.
is a game I've wanted her to play. We ended up beating Shadow of the Colossus, the PS4 version, a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of liked that one. I think Eco she might prefer. And then obviously there's the Last Guardian is another one that I've enjoyed. But no, you're incorrect, sir. We move on. Discussion
I
topic
get
time.
one more.
I'm just kidding. No, it's your turn. What'd you end up having pickup wise or gaming this week?
So I didn't really pick up much. I guess I downloaded Danganronpa for my Vita to try to check out before. I was like trying to look up a list of games that would be good to specifically play before going to bed. And I was like, you know what? Like reading kind of like a story game that's like kind of creepy, it has murder and stuff, like that could be fun. But I mean, it's probably going to make me too sleepy. Like I only tried it the once. I think I got that idea because I've been listening to lore when I go to bed. If you've ever listened to the lore podcast, it's a good creepy podcast. But yeah, I don't know. I played like a little tiny bit, like 5 minutes of Final Fantasy 9. I did crack my wife's Vita and got hers all opened up, and then we ordered these you get these adapters for micro SD card because the PS Vita has a proprietary memory. My wife only had like a 4 gig memory stick in there, which was not enough for like hardly anything outside of like all the stuff we had to download to do it. So you can get this thing that will convert it from like a micro SD to like the cartridge slot for the game. And then you can go in and make it so that it reads that game slot as memory and writes to that instead of the memory slot. So for like $12 or maybe $16, you know, we got like 128 gig micro SD, and then we got a 2-pack of those things for like $8 so that if I want to do it in the future I can. But I mean, I've got a 32 gig proprietary memory in there and it's been fine for everything that I need. Like unless you're going to have a ton of stuff on there at once, you know, there's not a whole lot of need. I checked out
I need to buy a Vita still.
Oh yeah, dude, it's great.
Yeah.
Ever since like, and all this stuff is super easy to do. Like you don't even need to hook it up to a computer to do any of this. All of it you can just execute basically through the Vita's onboard web browser and then just kind of follow tutorials from there. I
Which
think it took me like an hour total to do everything.
you have a Japanese version, right?
They're region free, so it doesn't matter.
Well, no, technically the Japanese versions
It
the
just makes the circle the select
yeah,
button instead of X, but that's it.
and that's only on like the main menu, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that. I've been wanting one for a long time. And which one do you have? Do you have like the 1000 or the 1100?
They're both 2000s, I think.
Oh, 2000. PS Vita. Let's see, 2000. Let's see. Okay.
She's got the blue one, and I got the one that came bundled with Borderlands 2.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna cost about $150 roughly to
I
get
mean, for
one.
the form factor and what it can do and the ease of access, I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, to be honest, I should just get one. I got credit card reward points. So, I mean, I've got Vita games hanging out that I never play. But am I going to play a handheld? Probably not. So, I don't know. We'll see. But that's pretty cool. So, you end up cracking that to make it a preservation device.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, should we get into our discussion topic?
Yeah. So this week, you came up with the topic here, but it looks like we're going to talk about what's most important for game collection: the box, the manual, no creases. Like, what are the criteria?
Yeah. So I saw somebody bitching on a Facebook thread. That's usually where I get some of these topics every now and then. I just happen to have been reading something. It's like, oh, well, let's talk about that. Because obviously somebody was angry about it. They ended up buying a game. I think it was GameStop, or it might have honestly been like an old GameStop game. And so back in the day, and still today, they would typically take that nasty yellow barcode thing that says pre-owned and slap it smack dab on the corner of your insert for some weird ass reason. That's where it would go. And so taking that off is a pain in the ass for most people, right? Depends on if you know what you're doing or not, and how long the sticker's been sitting on there too. So there's been times where I've picked up games that sticker's been sitting on there for easily 10 years. And there's no taking that off
Can't you
without
just hit
tearing
it
out.
with like a blow dryer?
The thing is that like the glue gets like super hard and crusty, and it's already kind of adhered to the paper. So like I've had instances where yes, I've tried to blow dry it off, but it's not. That glue is just so old that it's fused almost the paper, and so you try to get that off and like crusts off. So it's like, let's not even mess with it. So that's happened a few times to me. I've also had games where it has the old Hollywood Video like or Blockbuster sticker on top of a disc. I'm
Do you
not
have any
even gonna.
Blockbuster cases?
I have Hollywood Video cases. I probably have a Blockbuster case here or there. I'd have to look, but yeah. So, but I've had like stickers on top of my physical disc, like just a straight up sticker on top, and it's like, what the hell? That one I've been told like, don't even mess with that. Like, you'll completely screw up the data. It's not worth it. You're gonna destroy your game basically if you mess with it. So I haven't done that for some of my games that I've picked up in the past. So yeah, I mean, I saw this guy complaining. He was saying, look, I bought a game. It's, I'm super pissed off. Like, it's right on the paper. And he started, of course, going on a tangent about like all of his plastic on the case and everything else. Like, and he put it smack dab on the paper. Like, that's the most important part of the game. And the first thing I thought of was like, not really. That's not the most important part of a game. The most important part is that, the game plays and that the game is there. Now, if you were just buying like a case, well, then why would you buy a case where the stickers on the plastic or on the paper, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So basically, the thing I was coming up with here and talking about is like, if you're collecting, what is the most important part to you outside of a game, right? Let's just pretend the game is 100% intact. There's no issues there, like the disc itself or the cartridge. When we think about anything else tied to it, what to you is most important? Is it having it 100% complete in box and like pristine condition? Is it okay to just have the box and no manual? Is it okay to have just like the slipcover and no original case? Like, where is the line
Is it
on
okay to
that?
have the Player's Choice edition
That
or
too.
the Xbox Platinum version?
Yep.
Like, some people get really picky on their shelves if you're like looking at the spines and then all of a sudden that yellow jumps out at you or that silver jumps out at you, and it doesn't fit in nicely and play along with everything else.
Yeah, what's Nintendo Player's Choice or something?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
Nintendo?
I
Yeah.
always remember the GameCube with like the big yellow block. I don't even
Uh-huh.
know what they do for Switch now,
I
or even if they have that.
I don't even think they do
Switch
greatest hits or
Select
anything.
or something, I don't
I
know.
don't think they do anything like that anymore. At least I haven't seen it.
They
You know
don't
what it is?
reduce their prices anymore.
No, they don't. And then you know what I think it is? So you have like the Game of the Year editions. That's usually where it's different. And
Mhm.
because it's not necessarily sometimes it's a different case, but it's more so the like the bar at the top's like, you know, Game of the Year edition now includes blah 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 download code on the inside. That type of
Mhm.
thing. Um
Yeah, some of that stuff is crazy, like, and the thing is, it's not gonna be a ubiquitous thing across the board because so many games are different. I mean, what's important and expensive for collecting, a PS3 title is not as important and expensive as collecting for a Game Boy original game. Like, those cardboard boxes are so much less ubiquitous than just like a complete in box PS3 game. And especially once you start to get into like current gen stuff where there is no manual. So you're really only getting the box and if there's a slipcover or something. But other than that, like, what are you losing, especially in some of these situations where the game isn't even all on the game? Like, if you have to download half the game from like Nintendo Online or something, like, what are you even buying other than here's my physical representation of the license you're letting me use?
well, and that's kind of what I was thinking with this too. It's like, how are you displaying it? Right?
Mhm.
Because I can understand like a pre-owned sticker on the spine of the actual insert, not the plastic, but on the spine of it. And then yeah, you're looking at all your games, you see like pre-owned in yellow, like just chilling right on the paper. And you're like, man, that sucks. Like looking at it like that. I actually got rid of a lot of my stickers years ago, and I was very, very careful about it because that drove me crazy. Now I do have other games where I have a sticker on the art insert, but it's on like the top right corner of the front.
You'll never
I'm
see
not
it from the side.
exactly. I'm not displaying it face out. I'm displaying it by spine only. That's the most efficient way for storage purposes, regardless of what anybody tells you. So, you know, that's all I'm looking for. So as long as
Mhm.
that's in good shape. So I guess for me, there's certain elements of a if we're talking PlayStation 2, for example, there's certain elements of a case I really just don't care about, right? Like if there's a chew mark on the bottom corner or something of a game because it's like somebody's dog bit into the case, which I've had plenty of games like that come up. I'll usually flatten out the paper as much as I can, get it as nice as it looks, throw it into a brand new case that doesn't have bite marks all over it, and I'm cool. Like that's not a big deal. If there's a tear in the top right corner, I'm cool. It doesn't bug me because I'm looking at it from the spine. Is the manual nice and minty? It's nice, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I've got manuals that somebody spilled Coke into and they're hard, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, I don't care about that too much. I care more about the condition of a game. Is the game good? And is the spine okay? Like that's my big things. And in cases, obviously, I don't want to have cases that have cracks and loose pieces and things like that, but that's very easy to resolve. I mean, that's just
Well,
replacement cases.
and it depends on like your reasons for collecting too. Like, if these are games you're ever going to play, obviously you're probably going to look at a different price point than if you're purely just collecting for collector's sake. Like, if it's not anything you're ever really going to touch and you're looking for like a minty version and you're buying like, a rated version, or you're buying, just a really good version that you can find online. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there like me, like, I don't really collect games, but if I was gonna actually build like a collection of games and not really play them, like, I would love to have a bunch of Japanese GameCube titles because I just love like the form factor and the slipcover and the art and everything on there. So it's like you can really get into collecting for very different reasons and have very different priorities over what you're trying to get out of those. And I just think that, you know, complete in box, if you're not going to open the box, you could seriously just buy a box for half the price of buying lots of games. If you just want something cool to look at on your shelf, you could totally do it that way. Or, like some of these games, like, uh spoiler for early later on, but like the manual for the game that we played today is almost as much as the game itself. Like, if that's not important to you, you could just buy the game and not even have to sweat the rest of it. Or like in some situations with like older clamshell games, like if you could buy, just some new clamshells and just transfer all your art and stuff and the game over and get rid of like the damaged shell that was the original that it came with. Like there's lots of ways to kind of alter your collection as it is and bring things up to the standard that you're looking for.
Well, and I've done that in a few occasions. So, like this game in particular, it's funny you mentioned a manual because this is actually a loose copy for me. Um, but I made a high resolution print on a very good photo paper of the case, and I printed and cut it here at home and popped it into a new clamshell, and I think it looks great. Honestly,
Mhm.
like if you were just browsing my shelf, you would not be able to tell that that's a copy of
It's
that
like playing
particular.
proxy magic cards. Like nobody's really going to punish you for doing it. It's only for your own benefit.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're obviously playing a tournament, then it's kind of a shitty thing to do in a tournament setting. But um, yeah, like overall, oh, that's another pickup by the way. Magic cards. My wife will be happy to hear that.
Always
Um,
magic cards.
just a couple, not many. I had to finish up a deck. But yeah, so as far as cases and such, like like I was saying, I'm okay with certain damages. And to your point, right? Are you gonna play it? Yeah, if you're gonna play it, who gives a shit? Like what it looks like just it's cool. Like if you're gonna play the game, like just play the game. It's kind of like magic cards, which you brought up. I'm okay buying cards that are damaged, have creases, have stains on them, have like corners nicked off, little things like that. Like as long as I can pop that thing in a sleeve and I can play it, I don't care what it looks like.
Mhm.
Like, is it nice to have like a minty copy of a card? Sure. Is it
Or a full art
necessary?
version or a foil or like
Yeah,
different printing. Like you could get so fiddly with magic, or you can buy like the base cheapest one. Like you're going to
which
draw
is
and play them the same way.
what I do. Like I'm not is it cool to collect cards? Yeah, but like when I play cards, when I buy cards, I buy them for the purposes of playing, not for
Mhm.
them to sit there. Like yes, I do have cards sitting there forever like in boxes and such, but point is that those cards, it doesn't matter the condition. If I want to play with them, I can, right? If I want to catalog them, I can. I don't care about near mints and damage to moderate play and light play and all that. Like, I don't care. Like, as long as it's cheap and I can play it and it's real, I don't care. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of the mindset of games too. Like, is it nice to have, like, let's just say I pick up a game collection and it's a bunch of NES or SNES cartridges. Am I going to keep the one that's like really good condition or am I going to keep the one that's bad condition? In that instance, because I have the choice, I'll typically take the better condition game and sell the bad one, knowing it's not going to be as much money as if I sold the new one. I've had other instances where I've picked up a good one, actually, is Donkey Kong Country 3. I had a nice mint copy that I picked up. You know what I did, though? I sold the mint copy and kept my original from when I was a kid, right? That game doesn't look anywhere near as good as the one that I sold, but there's nostalgia purposes to it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that I could obviously get more for the version that I sold than my original copy,
Turn
my
it into
original.
more games instead of having just one sitting there that you're not probably going to play because you've got the other copy you're probably going to play and not get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. So it varies by collector. I think what I'm expressing is what I find to be important on games, right? Games are meant to be played. Yes, you can display them. Yes, you can collect them. But at the end of the day, it's a game. It's meant to be played. What's driving me crazy nowadays is seeing people on like threads for different, gaming threads showing off their brand new sealed PlayStation 4 games and saying, I'm not opening these. And they buy like two or three different versions and they're like, oh, well, I already bought it digitally so I could play it there. Okay. Like to your point you made, it's at this point in this day and age of video games, half the damn game isn't even on the disc anyways. So you're really just spending all that extra money to buy a sealed copy of paper and plastic
Mhm.
that nobody's going to care about in terms of like what's being sold today. Now, if it's like a low print game physically and like it's all in the cart, cool. I totally get it. But we're talking like mass release AAA titles, and you're like, oh yeah, I've got like 4 copies of that sealed and I'm buying it digitally. Come on. Like that's just ridiculous nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The only thing I
collectors.
have that I've bought that I haven't opened, I still have an extra copy of the Mario 3D All Stars laying
Might as
around
well sell. It's
somewhere.
like $90 now. I'd get rid of it if you're never gonna play it. So but okay. Yeah. Let's dive into the next thing then, which is EA is putting in-game ads in AAA games, and they're going to be very thoughtful about it. Apparently, that's what their CEO is saying.
Oh
This
yeah,
is
thoughtful
Joey.
about how much money they can make.
Yeah, right. This is Joey Morales at Tom's Hardware. I actually love reading Tom's Hardware stuff. By the way, if you're listening and you haven't read any articles from them, they're usually pretty good. Like there's a lot of content on there that you can read. Generally, whenever I find like am looking up how to do XYZ, what's the best, if I'm comparing phones or I'm comparing like two different types of games or maybe comparing like processors for computer, like Tom's Hardware is always great. So I like going on there. Um Overall, personally, I know you're not gonna like this, but I'm okay with this. Having ads put in the games. Reason being is we see
Because you're a
all the
corpo
time.
shill. That's why. That's the reason being, isn't it, John? Come on, confess.
I'm making money off this. I'm siding with EA, so they sponsor us. This episode has been brought to us.
Advertisers are always advertisers, and
Yeah,
marketers are always listening.
this episode has been brought to you by Ryan's OnlyFans. Um,
Potato fans.
Potato fans. I'm sorry. So I'm okay with this really because of the whole basis of game prices going up constantly. Now, if we see advertising in games and then they continue to increase prices, that's stupid. And that's going to get a lot of flack. But if you have these companies saying, like, look, we're not making a ton of money, we're going to increase, the price of these games. Would you rather have that cost thrown onto the consumer for an extra $10 per game, or would you rather some multi-billion-dollar corporation say, we're going to throw an ad in there and it's going to be on a billboard or it's going to be on a poster on the wall of the game that you're playing? And yeah, you're going to see it, Ryan, but you're also not paying an extra $10 for having seen that. I
Yeah,
think
but
that's the best way to go about it.
but the biggest problem with it is that they are getting more expensive to make games, but they're still selling a ton of games. They're still recording record profits. They're just not showing infinite, unlimited growth. So, this is a new vector that they could try to achieve growth in without actually increasing game sales or making games better or doing anything positive to change what they're in. This is just like, well, let's just keep doing everything the same, but find a way to inconvenience people and make even more money, and give none of that to what's actually needed here. Like, none of these advertising dollars are probably going to like realistically make a difference on you know anybody who's working on the games salaries or anything like this. This is all just going to turn into extra profits for the companies, and I mean, it's just kind of like whatever at that point.
Well, I mean, some of the things you have to consider, though, right? I don't think it's going to be as intrusive as you think. They already
Not at
have.
first, but
Well,
it'll
no.
only get worse. Like, video like pop-ups on the internet probably weren't that bad when it started, but like, heaven help you if you don't have a pop-up ad blocker these days.
Yeah, but like think about display advertising. Like how many websites do you scroll on now where it's like a display ad, display ad, display ad as you're reading an article? Like it gets to a
But I'm
point where
not paying for any of that.
I
Like, if
know,
I'm paying
but
$70 for your product, and then you're slapping me in the face as often as you feel like I can handle, and you're gonna keep pushing that line every year, like, eventually it's gonna be like the real world. Like, I don't go out on the freeway and consent to be hit in the face with 1,000 advertisements on my way to where I go. That's just how the world is. And if you can't escape it in your own, like, free time, like, might as well start plugging it in our dreams like Futurama at that point.
I remember that episode. That was great. Um, I mean, look, I'm okay with it from as long as it's not intrusive, as long as it is thoughtful. Like they talked about how a number of ads, like ads have been in video games since the 70s, apparently, right?
Mhm.
Like per that article. Um, and in this instance, they have actually put ads, EA specifically did it with like a UFC game where they had like a pop-up ad apparently, and it pissed everyone off. It disrupted gameplay and they took it out right away. They're like, okay, cool, we get it. We're not going to do that, right? Through experimentation. But they've had in like Need for Speed games, real advertising billboards for years that's noted there. Nobody bitched about it back then, right? The only reason we're talking about
Oh,
it
I'm
now
sure
is
people wrote articles and complained about it. Like, it definitely happened, but
maybe.
it was, like, the least evil way you could do it. Like, just because you're
Well, that's what I'm
doing
saying
it.
here. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying here. If it is like continuation of like that specifically, like, hey, I'm in a zombie game, right? And I'm in a mall and I see a GameStop sign completely like broken up on the side. Obviously, we're talking about their bankruptcy in the future, but if I see that, that's still an advertisement.
That's not
But
gonna be, like, what it is, though. Nobody wants, like, here's a broken down thing that's diegetically and in a post-apocalyptic, like, you want something that's going to be flashy and catchy and try to get you to buy something. Like, seeing a rundown GameStop in The Last of Us is not going to encourage anybody to go to GameStop and spend money. Like, that's what advertising's intent is.
here's what you're missing out on. If you go into that mall and every other thing is a no-name store, okay? And the one that sticks out to you and it's nice and bright and red and white and it's still a broken sign like hanging on its side, it says GameStop plastered on it. Your mind initially is like GameStop right off the bat. Nothing else clicks for you in that world other than GameStop. So it's not intrusive, it's realistic, but it's still technically an effective advertisement the way that it's
I
lined
don't
up
think
in that
it's
game.
I don't think it's realistic in that sense because it stands out as being like, "Oh, look at the GameStop right next to the McDonald's and the Bendy's." Like,
But it makes sense though, because now your mind is GameStop. Now
yeah,
you have seen that ad.
yeah,
Like
but it's not
that's the
gonna
point.
push you to go to GameStop. Like, an advertisement is meant to make a product look appealing and desirable and, like, promote awareness of it. Like,
That is awareness.
you're gonna see, like, a billboard for a thing, and then you're never gonna do it. Like, I was just listening, last week, there was, the big Apex Legends tournament was going on. Anybody who knows Moist Critical, Penguin Zero, I don't know, Charlie, whatever you want to call him, he's got a team that wasn't able to get in and compete. So his not team was there competing, and he was talking about all kinds of stuff. Like, I've watched some Dota, I've watched this tiny little bit of Apex now, but from what he was talking about as a team owner, is that there is no money in esports because gamers don't buy the stuff that you try to advertise. Like, car companies aren't going to sell cars to people playing car games. Like, you're playing the car game because you can't buy a real Mercedes. Like, they're going to, like, all these companies that are trying to market, like, they have to market something you're actually going to purchase. And if you're driving around and all you're seeing is like gaming chair and gaming headset advertisement, it's going to be like, cool, this is just like every other website I go to and see those ads on, and you're going to ignore them. Like,
Well,
and eventually that money's not really going to be coming in.
that sort of thoughtful component of their statement makes sense though, right? Because if you're
Because
playing a
Apple was so thoughtful with their most recent ad. Advertisers are always so thoughtful that they have to remove their ads and apologize for them, just like EA did in the
the
UFC game
UFC game.
before.
No, but here's what I mean by thoughtful. Thoughtful is like the GameStop piece I just gave you, right? Like it has a purpose in that world and it is meant to stand out, right? Like it's not like a gaming chair advertisement on a poster that's big and bright in the middle of this like atmosphere, right? Like that's thoughtful to me. Like a broken down GameStop sign on its side, that's thoughtful. If you're playing Need for Speed and you see a Best Buy ad and you see an ad for like Subway and something else as you're going by and see these like in the realistic like components of this game and Need for Speed billboards, right, for those
That's
ads,
not
it
thoughtful. That's
it's
just
it's
putting a
tied,
sign in there.
but it's tied to the
Yeah,
game,
but it's
right?
like, if I see the word Lowe's in a video game, it doesn't make me be like, "Oh shit, that's right. I gotta go to Lowe's and get this thing." It just makes me think of like, if you're putting advertising that's thoughtful in a game, like, the best example is when they talk about, like, Euro Truck Driver and stuff. Like, a trucking company
Yeah,
put ads for hiring truck drivers in a
and
game
that's
about being a truck driver. Like, that's a meaningful ad.
and
Putting the
that's what I'm
word
going at.
GameStop in a mall that's all dead and you can't look at video games or see what a real GameStop looks like or get any sense of, like, what that would be, like, that's not a meaningful ad. That's just
It
putting a
is.
word that's diegetic to the real world.
It is because it's brand recognition, which is tied to awareness and marketing. So when you
Yeah,
see
but that's
that,
not gonna be like a big like you're not gonna sell Need for Speed and then see an increased revenue in people going to Waffle House because you put Waffle House in the game.
well, yes,
Like,
but
unless
that
it moves
also
metrics, it doesn't mean anything.
nope, that's not true at all. So there's different types of marketing. So this could be you have impression based marketing, for example, which is like I hate to go into the whole marketing topic here, but you have ads that you can't track theoretically. Like there are types of advertisements you're just like podcasts, for example, right? If we were selling advertisements on our podcast, there's no way other than me being able to tell somebody, oh, hey, I'm going to run a code with you for a certain coupon that you can put into XYZ, but it's highly dependent on the business and what type of marketing they're doing, right? As to how they're going to track any sort of revenue tied to that advertisement. Or it's just impression based. It's, hey, we're going to be sending out, you know, an email communication and your logo is going to be front and center, like whatever you do on the back end to link up so we can see like if anything's happening, like that's it. There's no real way sometimes to tie in revenue. There's only certain elements of it. So in the instance of GameStop, in that thing that I'll kind of go back to again, you're looking at it for overall impressions of a game that's been sold, the amount of people whose eyes are going to see that piece of advertisement. Are you going to be able to track it in a game? No, there's no way. And the advertiser is going to know that going in. But there's brand recognition. And then there's the thought process of, yes, you might not say, oh, yeah, I got to go do XYZ or go buy a game at GameStop right now. But if at any point you think about the fact that you're just playing that game, or there's a reminder of like, oh, yeah, I was going to go to GameStop, or oh, I did have an intention of like buying X game. Maybe I should go see if GameStop has it. Because you've seen that in that video game you're playing, it's triggering some sort of response. It might not be immediate, but it's still there. So that's what I mean by thoughtful. It's not like let's plaster, you know, something on whatever game and think it's going to work. Like it has to have like some sort of tie-in. So like if you're playing an NBA 2K game, you're probably going to see ads for Nike, right?
If
Like that's what you
Correct.
would see, right? If you're
Yeah.
playing a hockey game, you're going to see Adidas, or you're going to see Bauer or CCM or any of those companies tied in to those pieces, because that's thoughtful marketing tied into that
So
game. So it has to have like a tie-in for that audience. And obviously, if I'm a company that's putting my ads in video games and I'm trying to put like, I don't know, Hello Kitty or pop figures or something, advertisements for that in a post-apocalyptic environment, I probably need to realize it's not going to be worth the amount of money I'm putting into it, because the overall consumer, the person playing that game, is probably not my target audience. So there's thought that needs to go into that as well.
so if I'm an advertiser and I'm paying you to put my ad in your game, everybody who plays that game better see that ad. Not every gamer even makes it 2 hours into a game before they return it on Steam. How many ads are you gonna see in the first 30 minutes of that game to make sure that everybody who buys that game gets that ad shown to them, rather than, "Oh, here's like, an ad and it's like 10 hours into the game, and it's really not that in your face or that big of a deal."
Yeah, so actually it's a big thing of marketing. Whenever you're buying advertising space for your company and you're looking at, let's just say a magazine. Or no, I'm not gonna use a magazine. Magazine's a bad example. Let's say you're working with like a digital publication, like newspapers are mainly digital nowadays, right? They'll say, oh, well, hey, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars to have a banner ad. It's going to have X amount of dollars to have a billboard type ad, like directly in the center. It's going to be this amount to have a small picture, but we'll have a description of some stuff, some text built into it, and that's going to link up to your website. Or we're going to have a video, and that video is like all of those things have different types of prices tied to it based on the type of views that they're going to get and the overall
And
click through
how
rate that those
obtrusive they are and difficult to
that
navigate and how you
that
have to
too.
close those programs down. So, like, obviously, they're gonna pay for the most obnoxious way they could possibly feasibly get it in your face.
But you have to take consideration
And the companies
as
are gonna take that money because they don't
not
they won't
necessarily
even release a finished game today, John, but
true.
they'll put ads in it, and then they'll say, "You know what? We've got all this ad money, and games are so expensive, and they take so long to make. Why don't you give us $50, for the DLC so that 3 years from now we could put out the finished game. Just watch 3 years of ads. Give us the $120 up front for the special edition. We're going to leave a tip jar at the end of the game if you ever make it there
Tip
so that
jar.
that can go to the CEOs
Tip
also.
tip to
And then we're going to
developers.
lay everybody off afterwards just to really cap off our pockets.
You've
Like,
gone to
it's
some
just
extremes.
one more thing after another.
No, I look, here's the thing, like, the developer also has to understand that if you make ads that are super obnoxious, people are gonna stop buying your damn games. Like, if that becomes, like, a normal occurrence of, like, "Hey, when I buy an EA game, I'm gonna see a giant video plastered in the middle of, like, my startup menu," like, people are not gonna accept that down the road. Like, that's gonna get some severe backlash, and you saw at the UFC thing, and they took it back right away, right? Like, no questions asked. They're like, "Yep, nobody wants this, let's get rid of it." So I think that's where it comes in as thoughtful again. They're gonna have thoughts on this. They're gonna plan around it, say what is gonna be the least intrusive, what is actually going to be okay with gamers that'll continue to buy our products, but then what's also going to be best, the most beneficial for the advertisers so we can get those dollars, and how are we going to price it accordingly so that, yeah, you might not have something that's in their face or like a sign somewhere or whatever it may be, but you're going to have something that's recognized. It's going to be this amount of money. Oh, you're going to have like a can of Coke sitting on a desk or something. Like how much money is tied to something like that. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm a game developer and I know exactly how every little thing needs to be priced, but everything will have some sort of price point to have your ad built into that game in some capacity if it's built out that way. Now, if it's built up like the bottom bar of your start menu has advertisements flicking through it like you would pop-ups, that's going to be super damn annoying and that's going to be like ridiculous. And I think you'll get some backlash on that. That to me isn't thoughtful. But if you're building it into the game itself and it has the longevity of being in that game, there's going to be some hefty dollars thrown around to have your advertisement in a game essentially forever, unless they can obviously a period of time say, oh, well, we'll put in some updates and swap things out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that there's eventually it's gonna kind of take over in a crazy way. Like, there are so many ads in games. Like, I think the article talks about like Pepsi Man a little bit and things like that too,
yeah,
where
it
it's like
does.
direct
That's
advertising in games. But
mhm.
like, what is the future for games like, you know, Fallout, where instead of making that like anti-corporate kind of game from the beginning that like all that is built into the world, like if Coca-Cola would give that studio money to make every Nuka-Cola a labeled Coca-Cola and have you spending Coca-Cola bottle caps instead of Nuka-Cola caps as the currency, like a new game studio developed in that world, I mean, it might just be everything corporate going forward, but
Yeah, but here's the
that's the
thing,
last
that
I'm gonna say on it.
that Nuka-Cola example, by the way, Coke doesn't need to do anything because when you see Nuka-Cola, you think Coca-Cola. When you see that, you don't think Pepsi, you don't think anything else, you think Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
So in that instance, I would say some companies are gonna be like, yeah, go ahead and make a mock version of what I've got. Like you said, Schmcdonald's or whatever, right? If you see Schmcdonald's, if I'm McDonald's, I'm not advertising with you. Why would I throw dollars in when you're already making Schmcdonald's? It's already recognizable at that point. People are gonna know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, but instead
You
of
know,
making a game where it's like you make a McDonald's that you're kind of like shitting on and making fun of, like instead of it doing that way, if you could just get like legit McDonald's money, like are you going to make creative compromises to get that money instead of doing it in a different way where you're looking at from an outside perspective, like in a money driven industry, like it
depends on how
could
immersive
compromise.
depends on how immersive you're trying to be, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to get recognizable brands in that game, right? You want people to kind of look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, this like feels realistic." Yeah, it's McDonald's. I don't care. Oh, it's Nuka-Cola, whatever. Like that's Coca-Cola. So if these companies already have like really good brand recognition, like a McDonald's, like a Coca-Cola, like a Starbucks, that type of stuff, they really don't need to advertise in games like this because it's already being done. Now, to your point though, EA can say, "Hey, we're not doing that anymore. This small company is gonna pay us like however much money to have their coffee shop in there." Well, now Starbucks is gonna come and be like, no, 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 like make it Barbucks or something and have like a seal or something instead of a mermaid, and we'll pay you X amount of dollars to do that. Like I think that type of stuff will end up happening um, down the road, but yeah, as long as it's not intrusive, I'm cool with it. So
I have one last thing for this, John. I think
you said one last thing,
no,
last thing to
I
go.
know, but it's not going to be about this. I think in the future, what we need to do is we need to do an episode for or like a month where we do just like all advertisement games, just like
That'd
McDonald's Playland game and Pepsi Man and
be pretty
the
fun.
7-Up game,
That'd be pretty fun. And the
just
Burger King.
advertisement modes. We'll do sweeps week.
We'll look at that. That might be a good one. Maybe like April, start of April Fools.
Yeah.
So, all right, we talk like 30 minutes marketing again.
Yeah.
I don't know. You keep doing this to me. Okay, the
You
real
chose the
reason you're
article.
okay, that's true. That is very true. I didn't think you'd go that deep with it, but okay, you did.
I'm going to fight the power, John.
Apparently, I'm the power run here. The real reason your favorite game studios are getting closed instead of sold. So this is Tessa Cower at The Gamer. So this is Ryan's article this week.
So, we have to talk about it because it was like the biggest news that happened. And I'm so surprised that it wasn't in our last week's episode. But last week we were raving against like Helldivers and stuff. So this week, Xbox did like the worst thing, and everybody was like very upset about this. They closed 4 of their studios. Some of those people got moved over to, from a support studio to help work on ESO, but pretty much everybody else is gone. They lost the biggest ones that everybody's really been talking about are mostly Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. But really, this article doesn't get into the individual reasonings and everything behind each studio. There's a lot of conversation, especially around, I think Tango's the one that has been brought up the most in this situation because of their successful release with Hi-Fi Rush. Xbox execs last year saying it hit every metric that they could have wanted it to do and was very successful. It won a bunch of awards, but all those people are gone and that studio's gone. And it was their only Japanese studio. They've been trying to make inroads with Japanese developers and get a bigger, hit into the Japanese game market. So this is a big blow to like all that work that's been done. And then a day or two later, Xbox execs came out saying, we want smaller games that win awards and prestige. And then the former like head of Tango sent out a picture, not enough awards, with all the awards that they had in their office for the game that had won.
Yeah, I put
So
that on our Twitter, actually. So
yeah,
if you want to see that, it's on there.
it's so bad for Xbox. And really, this article gives kind of some insight to a way of thinking that I had never really thought of on this. But really, the way she breaks it down is that, when you are Xbox and you have these studios, you've got options. You could sell the studio or you could close it. Well, if you sell it, are you going to sell the IP? Because that's really why you bought the studio, was for the work that they've done and what you can turn that work into for future revenue or continue to make off of it previously. Obviously, the talent pool is there for creating a new game. And ideally, that's what you would like them to do and be successful at doing. But Xbox has really shown that while everybody thought that they would take the approach of, hey, we have an infinite money hack, let's just buy these studios, let them do their thing and make us money, and we'll pump it out on Game Pass and everyone will be happy. Like, they can't stop but monkeying with the process and being execs. And we've learned that Xbox does not just have an unlimited budget. They're playing tightly under Microsoft's rule and having to do all of that. So if you are the head, okay, well, I'm not going to sell the studio with the IP. I could sell the studio itself and just keep the IP. But really, if you sell that studio, you are giving your competitors a functional team that has made a product together before that will directly compete with everything you are still planning on doing moving forward. So ideally, these large companies are incentivized to purchase studios, acquire their IP, destroy their means of production to not increase, their own benefit, but to press down and suppress the competition as much as possible. So really, Xbox, they're leading the way. in this new approach where, you know what, we're just going to buy up everything and then make it impossible for those people to want to continue to work in this industry so that everybody just gets bad games, and hopefully our bad games will be the least bad.
You remember when I said a long time ago that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard was not a good thing for the gaming industry? And I was very adamant on that. Yeah, this is one of those reasons, right? I talked about them owning all of these different IPs from Activision, and that those IPs were now stuck with Xbox specifically. And so if you ever wanted to see those games released, it would be up to one company to do that. That's what they're doing, right? This is not good for the gaming industry. We kind of saw the writing on the wall a long time ago, and hopefully, but I don't think these small developers are going to stop though. At least like the owners, right? Like if you're the head of you know, if you're the head developer for a studio and Microsoft comes to you and says, we're going to give you X millions of dollars to join us, what do you do? Like if you're making, less than six figures a year and you can become a millionaire instantly, you do it, right?
I
You
mean,
kind
it
of just
depends.
say,
Like some developers already have their money. I mean, like Shinji Mikami left, I think it was like Platinum or something originally, developed Tango, and then he left Tango, and now he developed his own other studio. Like he may be less inclined to sell out that second studio since he already made it big the first time. But yeah, I mean, I commented on a video the same topic the other day. Like, is there a future where these developers that have their studios are going to look sideways and be like, hey, this is eventually a death knell for my company, like 70% chance my company's not going to be around to finish their next title, or after that title comes out, regardless of how successful it is, it's probably going to be gone, and I'm going to be having to adapt and go from there. Like, is it worth me throwing all this out for a quick buck now, or can the industry sustain long enough that I can make this money organically myself with the release? Or is my studio even capable of getting to its full release without this money?
so if I was in that position, I would probably take the money, to be honest. Like if I'm in that situation, I can make a really quick buck. And then also you have to consider that at least in the US, I want to say it's recently that they got rid of non-compete clauses, or they're going to be getting rid of
Mm-hmm.
non-compete clauses. So this whole aspect of like in the past, it might have been, hey, we're going to acquire you, but you can't just quit, right? Like we're going to acquire your studio, you're going to continue making games for us, and then yeah, you could end up getting laid off. And by the way, there's like a 90-day non-compete clause or whatever it may be, or one, actually sometimes they're longer than that. I want to say sometimes like a year to 2 year non-compete clauses. So you're not going to be able to, do anything for a while, or
Mm-hmm.
start up your own company. But with that, I think it's out the window now, right? So into that, like today, I would say, yeah, okay, cool. You're going to pay me X amount of millions of dollars for this one IP or several games we've made, and my whole team is going to, get acquired by you, and then we're going to get shut down at some point. At that point, just be like, okay, cool. I'll take the millions. I'll stay on for however long I need to stay on as part of an agreement. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
bolting, I'm making a new studio. I'm taking my talent with me, and I'm going to continue to market it as by the developers of XYZ game, or from the developers of this game, still have my notoriety tied to that, put out great games, and move forward, right? And who knows, maybe get my studio acquired again and get more millions of dollars. So I think you kind of have to be strategic with it. If you're a small indie studio and the opportunity, like, yeah, you put all that blood, sweat, and tears into making a game and trying to get somewhere. If a big company says, yeah, we want to acquire that from you and you're going to get a payday, like you should kind of do it. There's people that's their, like, how they get by in life. Like I know several executives I've worked with that they create a company, they get acquired, they bring it to they bring it public, and then they move off to the next job, right? Okay, cool. My company was acquired. I got paid X amount of dollars. I'm really good at what I'm doing. I'm going to do something really similar over here with a new company, and hopefully I get acquired again. Like they
Mm-hmm.
do that in general, you know, general business. Why can't you do that in the gaming industry? So, and like I said, I'm kind of talking out of my ass there because I'm not in specifically the gaming industry. I'm not a developer, but that's kind of the approach I would take it if that's the way that you can go about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything, like developing games is such a a hard, almost impossible task that takes so many people working together to make it happen. And like that's all the thing that you lose when this happens, like all of the institutional knowledge. Like if you have a team that's been together for 10 years and people that have been in the industry for 20 years teaching the new people coming in, that is something that you can't just organically throw together like brand new all the time. So it's unfortunate that this is how the world is going with this, and that the gaming industry is just going to seemingly keep getting eaten up and shrunken down until it is this near monopolized forward path for just the most safest bets that we can make, and getting people just the next Call of Duty, or the next God of War, but kind of losing all of this individuality and risk taking that we would have hoped Microsoft could be capable of promoting. But it doesn't seem like it's really in them to do that at this point. It's not really going to um be a bright future for a lot of these studios that have IP with Microsoft. Like, and then on the other hand, you've got studios like Bethesda that have so much IP but not enough people to work on it. Like, they definitely want to start making money off of Fallout before the next Fallout game comes out, because that's probably going to be a long ass time at this point.
Realistically, what Microsoft should be doing, and I'll go into another point here too, is like with those studios that they're shutting down, why not like, and maybe they are, right? Maybe they're not laying everybody off. Why not take your like premier developers, like the developers that are going, I hate to say above and beyond, but you know what I mean? Like they're meeting certain
Don't
thresholds for
fire
the company.
everybody, try to keep the people that you could still use.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then put them into like Bethesda, right? Like work with
Well,
that
they did
studio.
that with one of the studios. They moved over to support Elder Scrolls Online, which I mean is still not like probably what I would have done, but I mean, hey, at least those people still have jobs, and I think they've already been working as support on that for a little bit.
Yeah, like keep your top talent. Like that at the end of the day, like that's what you should be doing, right? Keeping your top talent, continuing to pay them out like they should be paid, and put them into other projects that you maybe have gaps in, and then let go of talent that you think is not as good, right? Based
Mhm.
on performance of what you've seen. I mean, they should be keeping track of that stuff anyways, right? So that would be one thing. And then, I know my reaction or my view on it is kind of heartless anyways, but it does kind of state in here like, this is capitalism. That's how generally capitalism works,
Mhm.
well, not really, but the greed component of it, right? And at the end of the day, if you're in a capitalist society, you kind of have to make it work for you, right? So there's going to be layoffs, there's going to be shutdowns, there's going to be things of that nature. It's just kind of a nature of that, and you have to make it work for you. So I could see where some of these small studios, like I said, let's get acquired, let's get that money, but let's continue to do what we love. And again, goes with the top talent. If you have top talent from a team that you work with and you were acquired and then you were shut down, you could theoretically start a new studio and contact your top talent that you had and said, hey, quit, come back to me, and we're going to do this all over again and we're going to make a great game. So, I mean, there's just things to consider here, right? Like, yeah, it sucks and the overall nature of this is evil, but there's ways to kind of be positive about it and go about it in a different manner to make it work. So,
Mhm.
um, all right, should we get into our inflation
Let's
deflation?
do it.
All right, and I just realized like this is a pretty long episode compared to what we
We
normally
got
do.
into it.
Yeah, we did that marketing. Um, so inflation deflation for the week is Tom Mason's Dinosaur for Hire. Before we kick into this, upcoming for our episodes, we're gonna have Q Billion on 287, Super Off Road Baja for 288, and Guys for episode 289. So
So
that's
if you
what
want
you
to
can
play
expect.
along, or see your opinions before we get there, now you can.
Yeah, and I'm probably gonna up like once we get the Guys, I'll release like the next four. We'll kind of go from there.
Okay.
Um, All right, so developed by Sega Interactive Development Division. It was published by Sega, directed by Mark Nausha, released in October of 1993. It is a platforming shoot 'em up, and reception is a 3 to a 9 out of 10. So a pretty insane spread here. So
Yeah.
Ryan, what's the game about?
So this is based off of a comic property of the same name. In this game, you choose from one of three characters. There's a Stegosaurus, a Tyrannosaurus, and a Triceratops, wielding guns, trying to stop a dictator who has released like some mutant dinosaurs across the world. It is all right at best, I would say.
Yeah,
Not a lot of
so
story going on here. Not a whole lot of crazy gameplay going on here. You're just mostly moving left, moving right, shooting at angles, jumping.
and
Uh,
a lot of enemies I noticed
a
too,
lot of
like
enemies.
a
Also, fall
significant amount.
damage.
Yeah,
Fall
significant
damage.
amount of
Not
enemies.
something I'm used to in a platformer, and definitely made this game way harder than what I thought. Like when I was reading online, people said that this game was like in the wiki. They said it's easy. Said a very
Maybe
poor game by anybody's standards, and it's just far too easy to be worth any merit whatsoever. John, I was not able to make it past Sewer B. What about you?
which one was Sewer B?
The one with all the lasers and you had to
Oh,
jump on all
gotcha,
the
gotcha.
platforms?
My son took my controller when I got to Sewer B, so I don't know how it progressed at that point. But I will say, even like the first boss battle, which is like literally a turret that's shooting out like three things, and then like endless ninjas coming
Mhm.
out of the sewers to attack you. I was like, why is this there? And there's not much movement in that instance. So like it's very much like continuing to hold fire and jump and hope that you hit ninjas while you're also hitting this turret and hoping you'll destroy it. Like as you take damage, there's like no easy way that I could see to get around that. Um, I thought the game was super difficult, but there are difficulty settings, I think, in this
Oh,
game. So
really? I didn't
maybe
notice
I'm
that.
pretty I'm pretty sure there are difficulty settings. I have to double check that. But regardless, I thought it was hard. I don't think this is an easy game. I think there's a few like when you consider some of the enemies, like yeah, it's super easy going through like the first level, for example, super easy. But then you get to that boss battle, like what the hell's happening? And then you jump into sewer when you're like midway through sewer A, there's just like surfers coming left and right on skateboards and
Mhm.
electrical pieces and drill cars and all these other crazy things all at once. And the only thing you can hope to do is just run forward and try to dodge as many of these attacks while killing as many as possible to like negate any sort of damage so you can get to like the next sewer part. I thought sewer B was actually very easy with all the laser beams. I didn't have any sort of issue with sewer B in comparison to like sewer A. Um, but like I said, my son took the controller and started playing around. So I didn't get any further than that as I was playing through, but I thought it was pretty difficult. Now, graphic wise, I thought it was very nice. I really did appreciate the game for that aspect. I thought it controlled really well for the most part. I didn't have any issues with controls or jumping or anything of that nature. Music was very lackluster. It didn't really kind of engage me. It didn't put me into that environment and what I was expecting. And then the overall gameplay, as you noted, right? It's just kind of like run and gun. There's not a whole lot going for it. Even pickups are like sparse. There wasn't a whole lot of, oh, hey, you like
Yeah.
Contra, right? Contra's, oh, you can get like three or four different things and it like enhances your weapon. I think at some point I had two bullets going at one time, and that was it.
That's
So
the hard thing. Like I got pretty good. I tried playing it like with all three characters and got up to basically the same point each time, but like if you stack the power-ups, obviously you start to kind of roll and, it's a lot easier once you've got multiple power-ups picked up, but like if you don't and you die and you just start over with like the base gun, it is so much harder to like try to get through the same thing again.
well, Contra's like that. I mean, Contra's harder. Contra, you get hit once and you lose that all your power ups, right? So,
Mhm.
in a sense, this is easier for a shoot 'em up in that you keep your power ups until you actually die, and then, like the health. I picked up a thing of health, and like my health was at 2 bars. It shot up all the way full health. I was like, well, that's
Mhm.
great. Not all games do that, so that's kind of cool. So there was a lot of like nice pieces that were very gamer friendly, and then there's just certain aspects where you're like, why are there this many enemies coming at me at once? And how the hell do I get out of this? Uh,
Mhm.
so I think that's kind of it's. I think a 3 for 9 spread could almost be like a difficulty spread, right? Like one being the easiest, 10 being the hardest. Yeah, there's definitely a spread of like 3 and 9 here pretty consistently throughout the game that I saw. especially even like that sewer A, sewer B. Night and day for me in terms of difficulty. But what I find difficult might not be as difficult for you too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this definitely was not like my type of game, but it's just like when you have a platformer and you're taking like the fall damage, that's just the thing that like was messing me up. It's like if I wasn't taking the fall damage and having to platform around all this stuff and getting blasted by all these things at once, like maybe it would be like better to just have not one of those things to contend with. But like I just found it overwhelming on the enemy side, and then too few of like power-ups, and like just having to do, I don't know, it's just, this was not a great game for me. I'm definitely leaning more to the 3 rather than the 9. But taking a look at brass tacks this week,
yeah,
we got a complete inbox price $67. That peaked at $99.97 back in September 22. It's holding
everything.
currently. Loose 32.50 peaked at 33.96 in November 22. That's holding. I can't believe this game was like $100. No way.
Yeah, I mean, well, the loose copy is still close to its peak. Here's the thing: run and gun platform type games or shooters like this generally going to be a higher cost, anyways. It's hard for me to be like it's overpriced because just knowing the nature of the style of game, and it's not like it plays bad. It's just not that great of a game in general. But I mean, what do you kind of expect, right? Like it's based off of a random comic book property that I had never
That
heard
is
of.
the thing too. It is based off of a comic book property, so it's kind of one of those games that I always bring up where like there's multiple people that could be into this for different reasons, but for the most part, I don't think anybody is really racing to get this on your shelf as a collector. I think this is probably one that, you know, $32 is all right. I mean, I'm not that big of a Sega guy or like a run and gun platformer, so I'm going to call this one inflated for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's inflated. So as I see this like $67 price point, I'm like, if I saw a nice minty copy, maybe a shootout corner, right? Sitting at $45, $40, $45. I think you're getting a pretty good price point there. 67 seems pretty overpriced here. A loose copy, if you saw it for 20, 25, might be worth it just to grab it, as kind of one of those random obscure games if you're in that type of thing. But yeah, at this price point, just in what we played, I don't necessarily think that it's worth it. Yeah, I would pass personally. Like if you can get a good deal, like grab it, obviously, if you really want to play it. But yeah, overall, I would just pass on this if I saw it in the store at this price point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this, as I said earlier, this game I did print out my, and that's another thing, right? Like it's a loose copy. So depending on what you're looking for in collecting, if you just actively want to get like loose cartridge Sega games and get clamshells and print out artwork, like power to you. Like they're one of the easier ones to actually print out and make nice looking cases. So
Mm-hmm.
I would actually look into that if you're out there and you're listening and kind of considering, do I do a complete in box? Do I do a loose copy? If you really just kind of want to test it out and play it, definitely do a loose copy. If you want to display it, throw on a reproduction cover on there and you're off to the races, or off the shooting, I guess.
The Dino Races.
The Dino Races. We have played Dinosaur Racing though. And I think we did. Yeah, we did. That was part of a 3-game challenge of some sort. I don't remember, but yeah, we did do racing games one time. That was fun. All right. Well, you all know what our lineup is. Q-Billion will be the next game that we play. That'll be on the Game Boy. You'll be in person with me, so that'll be fun to see what the hell that game's about. Honestly, I'm not even going to look it up. I'm just going to jump into it and see what happens. It's been sitting on my shelf for a very long time, so hopefully it works. But this has been episode 286 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.